Hello! It's Chris the Frog of Sewer Spewer with the final video in my series where I talk about new releases that came out in the past month coming out of Jojage, or so-called Montreal, and so-called Quebec, in so-called Canada. And as I explained in last month's video, I'm putting an end to the series just because it's just gotten so hard to find the time to actually sit down and record these videos. But I wanted to put a nice little bow on 2025, so in this video I'll be talking about releases that came out in December of 2025. And I wasn't really expecting that many releases to come out in December. I thought I'd just add them on to my November list, but there were so many that came out, including Demo Fests. So what I'll be doing in this video is going through all the releases that came out in December, and at the end, I'll be talking about Demo Fest and some but not all of the releases that came out through the festival. And right now, I'm recording this mid-January. I was planning on doing this video last weekend, but there was a death in my family and I had to drink about it. So I'm finally sitting down to do this. And then this will be the final video in the series, and I will be moving on to a different format, which I'll be talking about at the end of this video. So let's jump in straight into the releases, starting off with a new hardcore band called World Champion and their debut self-titled EP. And this band is offering a lot of variety in their sound. There's one song that has break beats in it, and the last track is an ambient post-hardcore song. So I really appreciate it when a band is offering more than just the straightforward macho breakdown hardcore sound, which I do enjoy, but I think it's important to kind of set yourself apart from that sound. Next, we have death metal band Zero State and their second EP, Shadow Realm. And this is the last recording that they did with their former singer Olivier, who has since moved on to other projects. And Zach of the band Morora has since stepped in for vocal duties. But another thing I want to mention is when I'm listening to these releases, I feel like the context in which I'm listening to them is really important. Some of the times I'm in transit or I'm sitting down and doing work, but when I was listening to this EP, I was actually doing my makeup and getting ready to go out. So I felt it was such a weird contrast listening to death metal while getting all dolled up in the mirror, and I felt that was kind of funny. Next, we have industrial project Belly Hatcher and their new EP, Late Heavy Bombardment. And I feel like this release is a lot more upbeat in terms of the beats and instrumentals compared to their previous album, Armed Care, which I felt had more of a darker and more aggressive feel to it. So I feel like this new EP is signaling a new direction for Belly Hatcher, and I'm not opposed to it. Next, we have my friends in the noisecore band Duplah, Pootch, Hanichan, Gasoliiine, and their new album Super Sublingual Mix, which is out through No Sides Records. And if you didn't know, Maeve, who also plays in my band, Piracy Death Cult, she plays guitar on this record. And this is actually the second release that Duplah Pootch has put out this year, but it was actually recorded before their last album that they put out with their old singer, Chloe, before she left the band and Maeve took over vocals and switched to bass. But the mix on this album is definitely a choice. It's very lo-fi and it gives this like very extra weird noisy layer to it. And there were times where I didn't really know what I was listening to, but that's kind of the point. And speaking of weird, next we have experimental rock band Gleba and their debut album, Gleba Disc, which was released in conjunction with their appearance at 9 Points Fest, which I also played. And I felt it was really important that I got to see Gleba live because it made me understand their sound a bit more, because previously I hadn't seen them live and I had been listening to their singles here and there and just really wasn't understanding their sound. So once I did see them live, I have a better idea of what they're going for. And this release is still very weird. It's still very all over the place. But it has these keyboard arrangements that make me think of California era Mr. Bungle. So if that's your thing and you like to be challenged by what you're listening to, then check this out. Next, we have indie folk singer-songwriter Parallel and their second album, Frail. And the sound of this project is just very mellow and dreamy, and there's lots of reverb. And listening to this, you just have a feeling of serenity and warmth. Next, we have heavy drone trio Tempête Solaire and their second album, La Précession des Équinoxes. And this is a supergroup of sorts, which includes Eric of This Quiet Army, and Elise on saxophone, who I know as the organizer of the Equinox Festival. And the songs on this are all instrumental, and I'm guessing somewhat improvised, and it has a very spacey feeling to it, but I'm a particular fan of Elise's squealing sax. Next is screamo band Computer Science and their debut album, Collarbone Diaries, which was one of my favorite albums of 2025. I just really like both the screamy and the quiet spoken word parts, and there's just lots of layers, and there's a song with harmonica and xylophone. So there's a lot to pick apart in this, and as soon as I was listening to it, I was like, I need to include this on my favorite albums list, even though I was maybe a week away from releasing it. I just enjoyed it so much on the first listen, and I feel there's a lot more to appreciate with more listens after that. Next is pop-punk band Sucker Punch and their new EP, Go Big or Go Home. And I'm kind of picky when it comes to pop punk, and I found this release very poppy and sugary, maybe a bit too sugary for my tastes, but if you live and breathe pop punk, then you definitely want to give this a listen. Next is comedic synth metal band Monsieur 82 and their debut album Vengeance. And I really like the humor of this band. They really double down on the whole robotic sound. But they also steal some hooks from some very well-known 80s songs. And another thing, back in 2023 when they released their single BMX, I felt like that song was stuck in my head for months. And after listening to this album, it just got stuck in my head all over again. Next, we have stoner punk band Rodney the Walrus and their new EP, Trucha, which is their latest release in 7 years. I came across this band in 2015, and I remember at the time being drawn to their unique sound, and they're still offering a lot of interesting things on this release. Particularly, I felt that the samples of Walrus roars was very appropriate. Next, we have hard rock band Dionysus and their debut EP, Basement Tapes. And the members of this band are fairly young, and I feel like they're integrating a lot of classic rock and classic heavy metal into their sounds, so I'm going to keep an eye on this band and see how they evolve over the years. After that, we have technical death metal band Etherialist and their debut album, Epitome. And I really like the vocals on this album, but there is one vocal style that the singer is using that I find is very similar to what I call the goblin voice, which is used by Travis of the band Cattle Decapitation. It's kind of whiny and sounds like this, but when used correctly, it's very effective. Next, we have new pop-punk band Service Conseil and their debut EP, Accusé Réception. And this EP is set up a bit like a PSA, at least in terms of the opening and closing track. And this band is going for a bit of a corporate theme in terms of their lyrics, and when they perform live, they dress up in this business attire, and all their promotional photos are done in like the copy rooms or break rooms of an office. So it'd be interesting to see if this band continues with this corporate theme, or if they kind of branch off and try different things. Next up, we have a compilation with various local artists called Zudzis from Slamzisk. This is something that Slamzisk do every year, where they put out a compilation with bands on their roster doing Francophone covers, either covers of Francophone songs or songs that were originally in English, but the lyrics have all been changed into French. And this is the 10th album that they've done in this series, so congratulations to Slamzisk. And some notable covers on this record, you have Franc Batard covering System of a Down, Rouge Pompier covering Maniac from Michael Strombello, you have Noé Talbot covering Offspring, and you have Ripé covering Ramones. Those are the covers that I could identify. Those other covers I wasn't very familiar with, but maybe you can listen to this and recognize a few there. Next, we have ska band Bill McNeal and their new EP, Three Wise Guys. Bill McNeal is a band made up of the two brothers formerly of the band The Real Deal, who I used to listen to a lot back in high school, as well as Malcolm from the post-hardcore band In the Name of Havoc. And on this release, they collaborated with rapper So Mad, who appears on 2 songs, and she also did the cover art for this release, which I really appreciate because prior to this, Bill McNeal were doing AI generated cover art, which really left a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm glad that they're hiring actual artists to make their album art right now. But I was a particular fan of the more ska-core heavy song on this record just because it harkens back to when I was playing ska. Next up, we have deathcore band Pariah and their debut EP, The Exile Tapes. And what struck me about this EP are the low, growling vocals. And I'd be very curious to hear what this band sounds like with some very high-end production. Coming up, we have black metal band Infernal Gates and their second album, Hell's Reaper. And I feel like this band has the vibe of a first wave black metal band. The production is very decent. It doesn't have that lo-fi-ness of the second wave of black metal. And the themes in this album are very classically Satanist. But I also enjoy the elements of thrash metal and black and roll. After that, we have screamo band 1 Trillion Bees. And what I think is their last album, Mute, which is shocking because back in January of 2025, they put out their demo. So it's very strange that they're putting out their final album in December. It really kind of bookends 2025 in my mind. But the composition on this album is quite impressive. There's a lot of math rocky hammer-ons on the guitar and some faint screaming. Because when I saw 1 Trillion Bees, they didn't even use a microphone for their vocals. The drummer just screamed from behind his drum set. So I guess they used the same approach when recording this. And finally, for this section, we have punk metal band The Superstitions and their new EP, Vicenium. And this is a band that's been around since 2005, so 20 years, with the guitarist Victoria Turner as the only permanent member, which is wild to think because I remember seeing the Superstitions maybe 15 years ago at Crowbar, which doesn't even exist, so that kind of gives you an idea of how long this band has been around for. And this band has gone through a lot of lineup changes, and I think with each lineup change, they have changed their sound. So now I feel like they have a bit more of a metalcore sound with the vocalist switching between harsh and clean vocals. Okay, now is the section where I talk about DemoFest, which has been happening since 2020, I believe. And it's where anyone can contribute a demo. It could be from an established band, it could be from a new band, or it could just be some one-off project. Whatever they want, anybody could submit to it. And this is a fundraiser for solidarity across borders. So if you want to listen to high quality versions of these demos, then just go to 2025.demo-fest.org and you can make a donation there. And once you make a donation, you could stream and download these releases to your heart's content. And this year, there were over 70 releases as part of Demo Fest. I'm not going to go through every single one because then we'll be here forever, but I'm going to highlight a few significant releases as well as releases from my friends. So I'm just going to quickly run through these, starting off with new D-Beat band Bastard Idol, which has members from both Montreal and Toronto. And last night, the day I'm recording this, they did their debut performance and launched the cassette version of this demo, and I think they have plans to play more shows after that. Next, we have False Grind duo Bien-Être, and they had previously released an EP in November, so they've been quite busy in the past couple months. And all the songs on this demo are under a minute, and the middle track is just drums and noise. Then we have goth industrial artist Mickey Dagger and his demo Grinding the Blade, and one song has guest vocals from Dan of the band Béton Armé. Then we have my friends in the punk project Object of Loathing and their debut EP Knotweed. And I'm just so happy that I finally get to hear recordings from them. Even though I think they are room recordings, I'm still happy that they were finally able to put something out. And also the members of Object of Loathing, Kayla and Riley, they also have a power electronics noise project called Arrow 804, and they've also put out their debut demo for Demo Fest called Anguish. And also Riley has another project out on Demo Fest called Neglect, and their debut EP Keychain, which they did with their partner Tristan on drums, who is also in another band with Riley called Typeface. And they have since changed their name of this project to Willful Neglect, and they'll be playing their debut show very soon. Another significant release is Pleaser and their demo World of No, which has a cover of a Psychic Armor song on it. After that is the demo from new hardcore punk band Progress with a question mark, and Seb of the band Deadbolt plays guitar on that, and there's a lot of D-Beat influence in this project. After that, there's garage rock project Purple Dog, and their demo No Barking between 8h and 7h59 du lundi au vendredi du 1er avril au 31 mars. So there's a mix of French and English, and I believe that Purple Dog is now on hiatus, but the members of Purple Dog have then started another band called Morora, and they have a new release out on Demo Fest called Kosovo. Moving on, we have D-Beat band Recall and their second demo, and I particularly like the song Resistance on this release. After that, we have the one-off project Slastic Purgery and their demo Gnome Skull, and this is a weird but funny project from Enya of the band Computer Science, who I mentioned previously. Moving on, we have crust punk band Synaptic Isolation Syndrome and their demo Consuming Mental Isolation. And this band has members of Eulogy and War Crusher, and they do a cover of Doom on this release, and I believe that they'll be playing a show very soon. Next is experimental group Tall Shadows, which is a duo made up of a violin and synth player, and this is their demo Begotten in the Garden of Hesperides. And this is an alternative score to the movie Begotten, and Tall Shadows have performed this score live while the movie is projecting behind them. And finally, the last release I wanted to mention as part of Demo Fest is coming from Trenchcoat, which is the project from P. Lou of the band Deadbolt and One Track Mind, and I really like the energy on this release, and they have a couple of shows coming up, so check them out. So that's it for this video and the end of this video series where I talk about new releases. I'm a bit sad that I'm giving up this project, but like I said, it's just so hard to find time with my current work schedule, but I will keep on tracking new releases just in a different format. I have this template right here, and I'll be releasing that at the end of every month. And it'll just have like the basic info with like a little letterbox type review of the album. It's just easier for me to work on, and I feel like more people will be looking at it as opposed to these videos. But I really appreciate everyone who has been watching these videos over the past year. I think in the future, maybe I'll just do one video per year, just summing up my favorite releases from Montreal at the end of the year. I would like to do more video essay stuff on movies and other pop culture stuff, but right now I can't do that because of my job. But if I get a new job in the future that gives me a bit more free time, I'll look into that. So this is goodbye for now. But if you're interested in listening to any of these bands that I mentioned, go check out the YouTube playlist that I made. The link for that should be up here somewhere. And not all of these songs are on the playlist. Obviously, some are exclusively on the Demo Fest website, while other bands are exclusively on Bandcamp. So if they're not in the playlist, go try to find them out on Bandcamp. But if you want to see more of me, I do weekly videos on my social media channel, Sewer Spewer. That's on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok, so go follow me there. And if you want to support me while I support the scene, then go to patreon.com/sewerspewer, where you have the option of either subscribing for $2 a month, or you can tip me one time for either $5, $10, or $20, and you'll get a little something in return. So yeah, I don't really know how to wrap up this series. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video, and if you've seen any of my previous videos, thank you for watching those. And just continue to support the local scene here in Montreal. And if you don't live in Montreal, well, maybe you should consider visiting the city, because we just have such a vibrant scene and so many different bands that you can go see live. Okay, I'm gonna end this before I start crying, but until next time, whenever that may be, ribbit, ribbit!